Let's go. All right, I have 5:30. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I call this meeting to order. We do a quick roll call. Marcus Major. All right, I got everybody smiling. All right. Hey, happy Wednesday, everybody. Commissioner Bailey. Here. Commissioner Stork.
Here.
Commissioner Guschaw.
Here.
Commissioner Speak.
Here.
Commissioner Tysted.
Here.
Commissioner Owens.
Here.
Commissioner Skeet.
Here.
Commissioner Clemens.
Present.
And please make a note that Commissioner Rosenthal is absent tonight. So we have a total vote of 7 tonight. I'm sorry, 8. 8 votes tonight. Does better when I count, right? All right. Do I have approval of the minutes? Everybody get a chance to read the minutes from the last meeting? I know they were good and long.
Boy.
Yeah. Maybe I'll move this mic so people can hear me better. All right. So, do I have a motion of approval for the minutes?
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion? All right. I'll call the roll. Commissioner Bailey?
Yes.
Commissioner Stork?
Yes.
Commissioner Guschaw?
Yes.
Commissioner Spink?
Yes.
Commissioner Tysted?
Yes.
Commissioner Owens?
Yes.
Commissioner Skeet?
Yes.
Commissioner Clemens?
Yes.
All right. Let it be known. Minutes are approved. Secretary's report.
Good evening, gentlemen. On your agenda today, you have 2 items on the consent agenda, so once you approve the agenda, those will automatically be approved. We also have 3 items on the regular agenda, and we have 1 study session. So please stay in your seats because we're not going to otherwise we don't have anything else to have.
Excellent. All right. Well, with that, any discussion? Questions on the consent agenda? Okay. Do I have any declarations? None? All right. Well, with that, I'll take a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right. Let me call roll. Commissioner Bailey?
Yes.
Commissioner Stork?
Yes.
Commissioner Guschaw?
Yes.
Commissioner Spink?
Yes.
Commissioner Tysted?
Yes.
Commissioner Owens?
Yes.
Commissioner Skeet?
Yes.
Commissioner Clemens?
Yes.
All right. Agenda is approved, 8-0. Okay, so our first item for tonight is 9 Alpha in your packet. The Leavenworth County Planning Commission will now hear case DEV 24-097 and 098. This is a preliminary and a final plat for Crosby Edition Number 2 as outlined in your posted agenda. This is not a public hearing item. Planning staff report.
All right, good evening, gentlemen. This case is case DEV 24-097 and 098. It's a preliminary and final plat consideration of properties located at 16042 and 16120 Linwood Road. This is actually a replat of Lot 1 Crosby Edition and a tract of land. Since the tract of land is being included, a preliminary and final plat is required. This case requires an exception for the lot depth to lot width for lot number 2. The lot exceeds the requirement by approximately 460 feet. The exception is based upon the 3 criteria needed for the approval. Those can be found within your staff report. As a reminder, we will need a motion for the exception before the disposition of the plat. If the exception were to be approved, it would be in conformance with regulations. Staff is supportive of this request. The applicant is here to discuss the request further and answer any questions you may have. With that being said, I'm open to questions you might have.
Right. Thanks. Does the applicant wish to speak?
Crystal.
somebody we hadn't seen in a long time.
Good morning, Evening, Mr. Chairman and Planning Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. Crystal Both with Alice Land Consulting, 14500 Parallel Drive in Basehor, Kansas. Our client, Mr. Schultz, he's just simply wishing to acquire additional property. They live right there on the property. They just want to pick up a little extra land. As staff just stated, this is in conformance with the zoning regulations as far as the exception requirements go. It's very similar to many exceptions that have been granted many times before. We're just simply requesting that you would make this approval for us.
You just had to throw that last bullet in there. You've been storing that up to throw that in,
No,
didn't you?
not at all.
Yeah. You're taking good notes from Joe Herring.
Joe.
Joe's like, yeah, I'm good.
Many times.
I'm a good
before.
mentor. All right. Okay. Any questions from the council? Any questions at all? Okay. Thank you. It's great seeing you again.
You too.
Don't be a stranger. Any other additional information to be presented?
No, sir.
None? Okay. Questions, comments from members of the commission? Well, I'll entertain a motion to approve the exception of the case DEV 24-097 and 098, a preliminary and final plat for Crosby Edition Number 2.
Don't we have to have an exception?
Yeah, we're going to do the exception first, and then we'll do the final plat.
Mr. Chairman, I hereby recommend that we approve an exception from Article 50, Section 40.3.I, lot depth to lot width ratio in conformance with the zoning and subdivision regulations for case DEV 24-097 and 098 as submitted by the application based on a finding that all three criteria for an exception have been met.
Thank you, sir. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All right. Any discussion on the motion? Okay. Allow me to call roll. Commissioner Bailey.
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart.
Yes.
Commissioner Gustchuk.
Yes.
Commissioner Spink.
Yes.
Commissioner Tysted.
Yes.
Commissioner Owens.
Yes.
Commissioner Skeet.
Yes.
Commissioner Clemens.
Yes.
All right. The motion is carried by a vote of 8-0. Now I will entertain a motion for the approval of the plat, the final plat for the Crosby Edition Number 2.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I find that the subdivision request complies with the zoning and subdivision regulations and move to recommend approval to the Board of County Commissioners of the request as outlined in case DEB 24-07 and 098 based on the recommendations of the planning staff and the findings as set forth in the staff report.
I second.
All right. I have a motion and I have a second. Do I have discussion among the commission? Questions? Answers? Okay. None? Let me to call roll. Commissioner Bailey?
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart?
Yes.
Commissioner Gustchuk?
Yes.
Commissioner Spink?
Yes.
Commissioner Tysted?
Yes.
Commissioner Owens?
Yes.
Commissioner Skeet?
Yes.
Commissioner Clemens?
Yes.
All right. Let the record show the motion is carried by a vote of 8-0. The Board of County Commissioners will consider this item no earlier than April 23rd, 2025 at 09 a.m. in the Leavenworth County Courthouse. All right. Miss Crystal, that doesn't mean you get to leave.
My girls have puppies here just a little bit, so I gotta go.
Have a good night. Thanks for coming back to see us. Okay, we're going to hear 9 Bravo at this time, item 9 Bravo in your case. So this is a request. Here we go. The Leavenworth County Planning Commission will now hear case DEV 25-013. This is a lot split exception for Smith's Corner, as outlined in your posted agenda. It's not a public hearing. Planning staff report.
All right, gentlemen, this case is case DEB-25-013. The applicants are requesting an exception from the zoning and subdivision regulations of Article 50, Section 40.3I, which is the lot depth to lot width ratio of a property located at 19575 Mitchell Road. The applicants are proposing to split a 5-acre lot into approximately 2.5-acre lots. The exception is for Lot 1 Alpha as it exceeds the 1-to-1 ratio. The access is restricted on Tonganoxie Drive, which would require both lots to access off of Mitchell Road. Access easement through Lot 1 Alpha is being granted for Lot 1 Bravo. The exception is based upon 3 criteria needed for the approval, and they can be found in your staff report. If the exception were to be approved, it would be in conformance with regulations. Staff is supportive of the request. The applicant is here to discuss their request further and answer any questions. With that being said, I am open to yours.
All right. So the applicant wish to speak? All right, sir. Thank you. Any other additional information to be presented?
Sir?
Okay. Questions, comments from the members of the commission?
I just had one question, and it has to do with the driveway off Mitchell Drive, where it was talking about a 400-foot separation. I noticed that the lot next to it is fairly close, not the 400 feet. How do we justify that?
So I know Public Works, they had approved the entrance for that location. So essentially all what they're doing is they're just going to be accessing off of that same entrance that was already approved.
Okay. So Public Works is saying that it's acceptable is acceptable for us.
Right, they
Yes,
have
sir.
they have to allow for access to any lot created in the county. This lot was created before this, obviously.
Okay.
So they found the most respectable spot to put an entrance on.
I mean, it makes sense. You know, looking at that thing, it makes sense because it can't come off Tonganoxie Road.
Right.
But there had been a discussion about a 400-foot separation between entrances, and it looks to be about 100 or less.
This is the best spot for an entrance point to this lot, even before this action's taken place. So
Okay.
they have an approved entrance. They have that entrance built out. It's
Okay.
there. They're just placing the easement over at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Good. Good
Is this
question.
going to be an issue if they sell the other lot? I mean, there's still going to be shared driveway? Or
That's
we're
why
going,
the easement.
That's why there's an access easement that's listed on this lot split.
okay, so you put the driveway in the easement area.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Comments? All right. Well, I'll entertain a motion to approve the exception for the case DEV 25-013, the lot split exception for Smith's Corner.
There you go. Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I hereby recommend that we approve an exception from Article 50, Section 40.3.I, lot depth to lot width ratio in conformance with the zoning and subdivision regulations for case DEV 25-013 is submitted by the application based on a finding that all 3 criteria for an exception have been met.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any discussion on the motion? Questions, concern, Chairman? Okay, Commissioners? All right, let me call roll. Commissioner Bailey?
Yes.
Commissioner Stork?
Yes.
Commissioner Guschock?
Yes.
Commissioner Spink?
Yes.
Commissioner Tysted?
Yes.
Commissioner Owens?
Yes.
Commissioner Skeet?
Yes.
Commissioner Clemens?
Yes.
All right, let the record show. The motion is carried by a vote of 8-0. And this doesn't go in front of the county commissioners. Okay. All right. Okay. Turn to your notes to 9 Charlie. Item 9 Charlie. The Leavenworth County Planning Commission will now hear case DEV 25-012. It's a partial vacation request of Stories Addition as outlined in your posted agenda. This does require a public hearing. Public comments are limited to 5 minutes per person. Planning staff report.
Before you is a request for a partial vacation. I know you guys have never seen this before. The last vacation we had in the county was over 30 years ago. So essentially, per Kansas State Statute 58-2613, if a property in the county or outside of the jurisdiction is platted, and if the property owner would like to seek vacating that plat, they are entitled to request that vacation be presented to the Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners to essentially vacate. They can vacate roads, they can vacate lots, they can vacate easements. In this case, the applicant is requesting to vacate part of lots 19 through 46 of Block 2 of Stories Addition. And as you can see, they did provide you a legal description of that boundary in which they are requesting a vacation of. So every part of a block or of a lot within that boundary would be vacated if this request were to be approved. Per that statute, we obviously have to hold a hearing for you guys to consider this. We have to allow the public to comment, which is what we are here today. And then your recommendation would be passed on to the Board of County Commissioners, who would take final action. There are a few encumbrances within this property already. There are 3 utility lines going through it, 2 of which will be staying in its current location, which is along the northern property line. The applicant has provided a description of an easement that they will file for the benefit of those 2 utility lines to remain there, and that would be a part of this action. The third is an existing water line that they have contacted the Blue Water District about. The Blue Water District indicated that they are willing to move it along Beckler Road, and the applicant is in support of that. And if they also indicated if additional easement is needed along that right of way, they would be willing to grant that. But of course, since that water line hasn't been moved yet, we do not know its exact location. So that's why that they are in agreement that they will allow that easement to take place if additional easement is needed for that right of way. Aside from that, staff did review this. It appears that it is compliant with Kansas statutes as part of the application submittal. Staff also reviewed the historical development of this parcel, which is essentially none. I did go back and look at aerial photography, and it looks like it's never been developed out. As well, staff didn't see any other implications or negative impacts on surrounding property owners if this application were to be approved. So if you have any further questions about the process or the application, please let us know, but the applicant is also here in attendance.
All right. Thank you. Upon opening this public comment portion of the hearing, those of you who wish to speak either for or against this item upon recognition will give your full name and address each time you begin to speak. This is necessary since this is a public hearing. It's being recorded. Public comment portion of this hearing is now open. Will the applicant please come forward? Hello there, sir.
Good evening. Joe Herring, Herring Surveying, 315 North 5th. Staff presented it, very well. Don't know if you guys recommend approval in these situations, or if that's just up to.
It's really up to them.
Just up to them. Okay. So yeah, the clients just want to vacate this so they can further divide the property and build 2 houses on one on a small tract and one will be on a 40+ acre parcel. So that is their wish. I'm here for any questions.
The client is that the client based on the photo we're looking at? Is that the client in the house just north of this lot? Is that what we're talking about? That's the same people right there.
They own the vacant tract to the west. They also own that house that does exist. I don't know the parcel number, but it's just right where the cursor is right now. So
Okay.
They own basically 3 parcels there, and there will be an adjustment, a boundary line adjustment, creating it down to 2 parcels
Okay.
upon
Okay.
this approval.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Okay. All right. Any questions or comments for the client? All right. Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it, buddy.
Thank you.
Good to see you tonight. We will now hear from those individuals present wishing to speak in favor of the request.
One at a time, please.
Don't all rush.
All right. We'll now hear from those individuals present wishing to speak in opposition of the request. Any other additional information to be presented? Okay. All right. Public comment portion of this hearing is now closed. Are there questions, comments from the members of the commission? Okay. Well, I've got a question. How many of you have ever seen anything like this? Dates back to 1859.
That we're vacating?
Yeah. This is pretty interesting. 1859, that was done, right? That all that was done?
It looks like they thought they were going to have a mini city there.
Yeah.
With all those individual lots.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty interesting.
What I read or interpreted from the packet is it's all in one family.
Yeah.
It's gone through generations, and somebody wants to build on it, and they just want to vacate what was done in 1859 so they can redesignate it.
Yeah. Been pretty interesting to know those lots were so small, so tiny, what they were going to do and what they were designed to do. But anyway, that's for another night. Okay. Well, at this time, I'll entertain a motion on this request. The request is for case DEV 25-012, a partial vacation request of Stories Addition as outlined.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I find that the vacation request complies with KSA 58-2613 et al. And move to recommend approval to the Board of County Commissioners of the request as outlined in case DEV 25012 based on the recommendations of planning staff and the findings are set forth in the staff report.
Thank you, sir. I have a
Commissioners,
motion. Do I have a second?
We have a comment from the lawyers.
We do, and I'm so sorry.
Did I not read it right?
You read it perfectly. This is something where I failed to give an updated draft motion for you. So because this is such a unique thing statutorily, part of the findings in something like this is we note that the public notices went out and that basically the public will suffer no inconvenience or injury if we proceed in this action. So I guess, Commissioner, would you mind just incorporating that into your motion?
You want me to incorporate the statement that nobody in the public will be inconvenienced or injured as a result of this action?
If you believe it to be true, yes.
I do believe it to be true because you
Thank
told
you.
me.
Okay, so make note, it has been included in your motion. Thank you. I'll remember that from now on for more motions. It's pretty interesting. I mean, this whole thing is interesting. It's history right now in the makings. Okay. All right, so I have a motion. And did I have a second? You had a second? Okay, thank you. All right. Let me call roll. I have a motion and a second. Let me call roll. Commissioner Bailey?
Yes.
Commissioner Stork?
Yes.
Commissioner Gushaw?
Yes.
Commissioner Spink?
Yes.
Commissioner Tysted?
Yes.
Commissioner Owens?
Yes.
Commissioner Skeet?
Yes.
Commissioner Clemens?
Yes.
All right. Let it be known, the motion is carried by a vote of 8-0. The Board of County Commissioners will consider this case no earlier than April 23rd, 2025. I don't have the time. I had the time on that, but April 23rd, 2025. The commission agenda is posted in the Leavenworth County website and is available for public viewing. All right. That is the end of our cases now. Study session, did we want to break and do a study session, or did you have something?
It's a 5-minute briefing, Chairman, just to get some, just to get a congruence of opinion here on direction before we move forward.
Okay. All right.
All right, so before you is 3 items that staff has identified as not all of what we would be proposing to focus on in 2025, but the top 3. These are going to be some pretty substantial projects. So the first one is a recommendation to limit higher density residential, so R143 and greater, to within 1,500 feet of city limits. As you guys have seen over the last year, we've had a number of people come in requesting rezonings to R143. And we do have future land use designations that do accommodate that. However, they are pretty extensive in how far away from cities that recommendation is according to our future land use map. And there has been concerns raised by this body, by other individuals as part of that process, that maybe R143 is getting much further away from city limits than probably what the future land use map intends. So staff is recommending that be part of the consideration of putting a limit. And 1,500 feet is what staff is originally proposing. Doesn't mean it has to be that. But that would ensure that, parcels of that size are closer to city limits for the eventual extension of utilities to support, developments of that density. So, anybody have questions on that one?
What is the size of an R143?
Acre lots, 1 acre lots.
1 acre lots.
Is that big enough for a septic tank? Or
Right. Per sanitary code, they can get a septic tank on that lot. However, after a while, that septic tank will eventually fail. And then you're at a situation where it's unlikely that there will be another site on that 1 acre parcel that could accommodate it. So obviously the concern is, what do you do at that time? The logical approach would be that a sanitary sewer would be close by that you would connect it at that point.
Well,
Since this is the highest density that's allowable with the septic tank right now, the idea is that you contain that higher density development around each one of the communities. That has been a repetitive comment over and over with this body and other areas and some people in the BOCC. So at least consideration of this and that boundary, we want that to be a talking point as far as our 3 top goals. As you know, when we do our annual evaluation of the comp plan, we try to hit at least 3 goals, primarily around the action matrices. But these are, again, reviewing reoccurring issues that we've had over the last 14 to 16 months. We think it should take top priority.
Well, here's the basis of my question: is looking at 1,500 feet from a city limit. What is that going to give you? It's not. If they're within 660 feet of a septic line, they have to use that.
Well, within 660 feet, they have to be reviewed by the adjoining jurisdiction, which typically entails the question of annexation and whether they have utilities for that site. What we're trying to encourage by higher density development around these towns is the extension of municipal services to the area so that they can have a logical growth pattern outside of the current boundaries. But if you allow an immense amount of higher density development as far out as the comp plan allows it to be, you can put roadblocks for that development down the road if you don't address it up front. So that's the idea of that protective barrier.
Okay.
Don't we have some high density lots now in the long range plan that exceeds us?
We do. We have a number of land use districts that exceed the 1 acre lot, but they are predicated on having the ability to connect to public sewer.
Yeah.
So in essence, even though you may be able to have 3 units an acre, you can't logically do that with septic tank. You only go down to 1. So if that's your highest density designation, that highest density designation should logically surround each one of the cities, not in the center of the county.
Wouldn't you think within 1,500 foot, though, of, let's just take Tongi, where that new development is in Tongi ends right at their city limits. Mm-hmm. That developer already plans on buying.
He might plan on it.
Yeah.
But until he secures
and it hasn't happened yet. But, within 1,500 foot, I would think the city would already be annexing that.
Well, that's why the boundary is set at 1,500 feet. Within 660, they have to review it and offer comments. If we limit the ribbon of the ability of high-density residential from a county standpoint to 1,500 feet, that conversation happens a lot earlier, and it's way more in depth than it currently is.
Okay, so we're gonna force these cities.
We can't force.
Well, we can't
cities
force them, but we want to imply that they should go ahead and exceed their boundaries.
Well, I think they understand that going in, but I think it's a cooperative effort. to both encourage the extension of municipal services and to accommodate higher density development within the county that accommodates surrounding land use. Let's say you have an abundance of 10-acre tracts, and because the comp plan will allow you to, you plant, 50 homes that are zoned, R143, because the comp plan allows you. Is it logical to do that? Probably not, but does the comp plan allow you to do it? It does, unless there is an additional requirement that says, while we understand that is the case and that's the future land use designation there, logically it makes more sense within 1,500 feet of each city to accommodate higher density development. If you want to move to a lower density development, we're willing to discuss that with you in these areas.
Do we address the situation of island annexations that we've had in the past?
Island annexations, if they're voluntary, have to comply with state statute. There's very little that you can do from
with that 1,500 feet, that could say that it's within 1,500 feet of the city of Basehor, but it's 8 miles southeast of Basehor.
Well, that would be an interpretation for staff to make when that comes in. I don't believe that you can write regulations that will contemplate every possible scenario. So that would be on us, specifically me, to say, no, that doesn't meet the spirit and intent of that regulation, and as such, I will not recommend it. And I'll give you my reasons when it comes before you and before the Board of County Commissioners. Don't have to agree with me, but that will be my stance.
Okay.
So have we reviewed the land use plan, the map, and looked at how many of the R143 zones that are currently on it meet this requirement?
Yeah. Most of them are going to meet. There are a few that are outside, but anticipating we're going to see more 1-acre zonings. That's the reason to bring this before you now, before that occurs. So there isn't an abundance that occur outside. There are some, but there's not a boatload of 1-acre zonings that are outside that river.
Okay, and so will this eventually, if this is enacted, would it influence those so that we no longer look at them as an R143 and would need to change the land use plan, or do we just use them as an exception?
No, I think the land use plan stays exactly like it is because it anticipates municipal services going out to the areas of higher density. I don't think you change that plan based on today's current condition.
Okay.
I think you leave it as it stands, and when those services come out there, those densities can be accommodated. But until that time, and we can't make cities run sanitary sewer out to those areas. Until that time, we're going to be dealing with a lot of 1-acre zonings, and if we are, then I think we need to accommodate that in a logical pattern. And you don't need to change the future land use plan to do that. You simply have to supply a restriction in the subdivision regulations.
Okay. Thank you.
And moving on to, is that all the questions on that?
No, I think that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, again, these are just discussion points. These are
Right.
goals that we're setting for
Right.
this year's session to address what has been going on over the last, 18 months.
All right, number 2, review the County Road 1 corridor. You guys have asked for this. We agree with you. We probably need to relook at the efforts that have been put into County Road 1. What that looks like, we don't know for sure, but we want to make sure that you guys know that this is high on our priority list this year. We do have some ideas in place, but I don't know if
We're going to move forward with that with the governing body because they really have to make the determination on what they want to do in County Road 1 and then supply you with that answer. So we put this up here so that you understand we're going to have those discussions because we've had a number of rezonings in that particular area, and it will affect the overall goal of that particular corridor. So we're seeking guidance from the governing body, but we want to identify that to you that this is a component of what we're looking at there. And we'll certainly bring it to you after the governing body makes a determination, and we can accommodate those elements within the future land use plan.
Great.
Right, and then the third one is consider identifying and studying sub-planning areas. For example, County Road 1 is considered a sub-planning area. It's a very specific area in the county that was studied, and a separate land use plan was prepared for it based off of the potential growth that could occur in that area. This number 3 is essentially taking that same concept and then identifying other areas in the county that are seeing potential growth or have the potential to have growth occurring in it, and us getting ahead of it and starting to really hopefully make some subcategory plans that will help benefit that potential growth as it comes into the county. So trying to be proactive instead of reactive.
This is a very common practice in larger jurisdictions when they have multiple areas of annexation and higher density developments. What comes to mind specifically is Piper. The UG did a number of subplanning areas in the Piper area to accommodate higher density development. You can use it for that, or you can use it to high impact areas, specifically economic corridors. You don't necessarily have to do hard block zoning. You can do overlays, which in my opinion work a lot better because they don't change the underlying condition. They only come into effect when the area is developed. If it doesn't develop, it has no effect. So we want to consider some of these areas, and we want to put that additional tool in the toolbox. So if we do have large areas that are impacted, say in the southwest section of the county, then we want to be able to use that tool to accommodate development and the special needs that area may have. Whether it's an economic corridor, whether it's high-density residential development, whatever element there that it's outside the norm, we could possibly use this tool to accommodate.
The sticking point on both 2 and 3 for me would be the current property owners in those areas not limiting their desire of what they want to do with their property, which is kind of what we ran up against.
Well, again, that's the difference between hard block zoning and overlays. The overlay absolutely doesn't have any effect until that property owner decides that they do want to do something with their property. At that time, then the components of the overlay kick in, and they have to accommodate that different use. If they never do anything with their property, absolutely nothing changes. Now, hard block zoning, that's a different discussion. If you come in and change the underlying zoning district and allow certain uses, then yes, in my view, that's much harder impact. That's why I think overlays are a much better tool.
Gives flexibility.
The most flexibility you can have with the least amount of impact to the property owner. It's a great visioning tool, and again, has no effect until that property owner decides that they're going to do something different with the property. And when they do, then those additional criteria come into play.
Would and I'm just trying to figure out this. I think along your line of reasoning. So, do we notify the people if we have a sub-planning area? Do we notify them and ask for their input, or do we just put an overlay out there and get it approved by the?
Well, typically you would want the input of the adjoining property owners, but the base understanding from all parties involved should be this: that absolutely nothing changes to your property. It is not a rezone. It doesn't change your underlying zoning district. It doesn't change your taxes. It has no change at all until the property develops. You sell it to a developer to do something different with it. This accommodates comprehensive land uses within a specific corridor. Then you have a legal boundary. You have a public hearing over that legal boundary for people to come in and speak that are affected property owners or people within 1,000 feet of that boundary. Like you would have a public hearing on any rezone, although this is not a rezone. Right. Then you make a determination, then you move it up as you would to the BOCC, and they make a determination whether to ratify, deny, or modify.
We've talked a lot about the future land use map in general. Some mentions on County 1 corridor. What was done with County 1 corridor with regards to the landowners in that area and discussions have it been?
I have very basic knowledge of that. That was before my time. And the records of that particular section are not great. But I know there was interaction. There was
engagement as part of the planning process. And then obviously when they did the rezoning, everybody in that area was notified per state statute.
Yeah, public hearing as you would have. So I know they were engaged, and I know that that a number of entities were involved in the creation of that particular district. As to the finite detail of it, I can't tell you that, and I don't know if that's reflected in any of the minutes. But I do know the public was engaged in it. So again, these are a little outside the norm. but they're intended to address issues that you either currently have or you will have in the very near future. And adding tools to the toolbox to make it a little easier for you to accommodate maybe something that isn't the norm, because I believe you're going to see that a lot more frequently. And with that, we won't keep you anymore tonight. We just wanted to identify that.
I'm going to revisit number one quickly.
Yeah.
When you have something that meets this within 1,500 of a city limit, do you notify the city that you're doing this, even though it's not in their city limits?
Only within 660 feet, if you mean by changing the regulation itself?
If somebody wants to go to an R43 greater density and they're within 1,500 feet of
Only
the
within
city.
the 660-foot statutory rule. Currently, we don't have a joint commission or a enforcement entity that we could cooperate with another community to allow that type of oversight. So again, we anticipate staying within the 660-foot rule and maintaining planning authority from the jurisdictional line out.
Okay, thank you. No other questions, Mr. Chairman?
All right. All right.
Anything else, Chairman?
Okay. Well, with that, do I have a motion for adjournment?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen.
Hey,